Welcome to God Answers Prayer. I'm Linda Tiano, and we're delighted to have you join with us today to hear another story about how God answers prayer in the lives of everyday people just like you and me. And He's no respecter of persons, so He is delighted to be able to show Himself great and mighty in your midst. Today's scripture is found in Philippians chapter 4, verse 19. I am convinced that my God will fully satisfy every need you have, for I have seen the abundant riches of glory revealed to me through Yeshua HaMashiach. When you know, this verse speaks to something that made the writer not only experience but believe this promise. Rudy Mora is here to share how a traumatic incident jump-started his faith. We'll be right back with Rudy after this. Well, welcome back. We're here with Rudy Mora. And Rudy, it's good to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a wonderful opportunity.
I'm anxious to hear your story because you on your booking form, you said that you came to the Lord because of a traumatic experience.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, I've always been raised Catholic and still a Catholic. But in July 12th, 1989, I was a junior at West Mesa High School going into my senior year. And I was shot in the chest by an offender that didn't know me. I didn't know them. And here I am going into the highlight of my senior year, and in a spur of a moment, I'm fighting for my life. And all I can remember was I was riding a motorcycle with some friends. The vehicle in front of us stopped. Passenger gets out and fires around right into the crowd, and it hits the windjammer of my motorcycle, turns it slightly, which I truly believe is divine intervention, because if not, it would hit me straight in the heart. It hit the windjammer, turned, and then it hit me at an angle, hit me in the chest, collapsed my lung, and then went out my armpit. And a friend of mine that was riding with me loaded me up on the back of his motorcycle and took me to where my brother was at, and him and my brother's friend drove me to the hospital. And I could think the whole time I was going, it was like, I don't want to die, but I knew I was bleeding a lot. And I was losing so much blood that it was like these projectors of flashes of my life going by as I'm going there. And I was in so much pain. If getting shot in the chest with a .45 caliber, it's like getting slugged with a bat by Babe Ruth, and then it was on like fire. It burned, and then it hit my major nerve. We have a major nerve bracket under by our shoulder area. So, man, the pain when it hit that nerve bracket, which ultimately, I lost all feeling in this whole arm. I had to learn how to use this hand again, and to this day, I still don't have feeling in some parts of my arm. But the whole time I was going to Presbyterian Hospital, I knew that I didn't want to die, and I was in so much pain. And when I get to the emergency room, they put me on a stretcher, they rushed me in, and I could just see everybody kind of just clouding around me, because I was going out. And I find out later that they had to use the defibrillator to get my heart going. And what I remember was sitting on that gurney in the emergency room in so much pain and not wanting to die. But for a split second, I remember it like yesterday, like someone grabbed me by my arm, and it was like my pain went away, and they were like pulling me, and I was so peaceful. I couldn't feel anything, no pain, and for that split second, or seconds, whatever it was, I was in so much peace. And I guess the best way I can describe it is an out-of-body experience.
Yeah, sounds like it.
And because I could see them working on me. And at a spur of the moment, I literally, like, it comes back, the pain is right back again, and they said, we have his pulse back. And I remember a nurse saying that. And ever since then, I knew that it just solidified my faith, I guess, is the best way of putting it. And knowing that no matter what life throws at you, and that's why I like Philippians 4:13 so much, because, I look at it in good times and bad times, that, my strength comes from God and my faith in God, not anyone's abilities. It's merely my faith in Him that I'm going to be all right, and whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
And it just helps me reflect that no matter what happens in life, everything's in His hands. And I've been through a lot with the state police. I retired from the state police, had several life and death encounters, fighting for my life on the side of the road. And again, it's that my faith in God, that I always truly believe that God's not going to give me anything that I can't handle. And it's that faith that helped me survive a 28-year career in law enforcement, where I was literally assigned to a canine unit that we were looking for drug smugglers along Interstate 40, Interstate 10, Interstate 25, and looking for really, really bad people initially. And I'll explain that. What I quickly realized when it comes to even dealing with criminals is that I've arrested thousands of people smuggling drugs, contraband, child pornography, exotic animals. Anything that could be smuggled by the cartels will be on Interstate 40, Interstate 10. And it's because New Mexico's vast highway system and our proximity to Mexico that make us a prime target for that. And one thing that I quickly realized over my career is that drug cartels really prey on people on the fringe of society. And I'll give you one example. I met this one girl. She was traveling from Phoenix to Detroit, Michigan. She's had 2 kids in the car with her. And long story short, I knew something was going wrong. She was very nervous. Story didn't match up. And I knew she was involved in some type of criminal activity. I get consent to search, and I end up finding 5 kilos of cocaine in the diaper bags. And I talked to this young girl. She was 19 years old, and I always kind of get to know their story. And as I'm filling out the paperwork, I said, "What made you do this?" And she said, "Well, my baby's daddy got sent to prison. I don't have any money, and this guy came to me and says, 'Hey, you want to drive a car from Arizona to Detroit, Michigan? We'll pay you $2,500.' And I quickly realized that out of a lot of those people that I arrested were really good people that just made a bad choice.
Yeah.
And I'm not condoning their behavior, but they're put in a position where their back's up against the wall. And the cartels are really good at extorting people when they're at their weakest point.
Right.
And again, back to my story, it's just my faith in God and that divine intervention that helps me every single day. That divine strength helps me get through my daily struggles every single day.
It's, because I'm sure, did it push you deeper into the Word after that to
Yes.
begin to understand it?
Yes, for sure. And, as we face life struggles every single day, it's very easy for us to blame God, right?
Right.
Through many tragedies, I remember my dad died and had a massive heart attack, and I was there with him, and I just remember saying, like, "God, why'd you do this?" And but it just takes, you have to take a step back and say, this is God's plan. My dad's no longer suffering, had a bad heart, but it still didn't make it any easier, but it just makes it easier. You know, I struggle with my faith every single day. And it's, again, that strength through him that gets me through it. I find myself praying literally every day, not to cure anything that's going on, but just to give me strength to deal with whatever's going on.
Yeah.
And that's what helps me with my faith is, you know, Lord, just give me strength to deal with whatever's going to be thrown at me today.
So that experience of being shot and that out-of-body experience that you had, I mean, all of that must have really, I mean, if you didn't come back from that experience changed, and really understanding the person of Yeshua or Jesus in a greater way, that would be a travesty. But that's what happened with you, right? I mean,
Right.
It was like you just...
Yeah, and it kind of transformed me throughout my career, because I've seen police officers that I've worked with that become very jaded and very calloused for what we see in life. We see things as police officers and first responders that no one should ever have to see.
Right.
And that out-of-body experience that brought me closer to God helped me have that work-life balance. You know, I'm still married to my high school sweetheart, you know, for 32 years. And we live in a world today where by merely getting married, you have a 50% chance of getting divorced. Well, getting married and being in law enforcement, you have a 75% chance of getting divorced.
Wow.
And so I've been passionate about police officers' wellness, because next to military, law enforcement, people don't know this, that more than 400 police officers will take their lives in the line of duty every single year. And that's approximately, but that's a large number. And they'll take their lives in the line of duty while on duty with their department weapon. And we're seeing that drastically going up across law enforcement every single day. And I think a friend of mine, he's started a nonprofit, Faith in Cops, and it's our faith in God that's going to help us be better cops. And I really like his philosophy. It's just getting out and, you know, talking to people, making sure that police officers have the debriefing and the stress release that they need after these critical incidents.
Right.
And typically law enforcement has done a very good job doing that, but I like his program because when it's done through the department, there's no faith in it.
Right.
And through his, it's all spiritual, it's faith guided. And I can see it making a huge difference.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, you know, as you were sharing, you know, a lot of times when you're in a group and they say, well, are there any veterans in the room? And everybody's looking for military veterans. But being married to a retired law enforcement, I'm thinking, these guys, and you, I mean, you have been willing to put your lives on the line for your fellow citizens as well, and you deserve the respect and the honor that is due to you. So I'm saying to you today, thank you for your service.
Well, you're welcome, and it's an honor, you know, being a police officer, being a first responder, and I can only speak for being a police officer, is that we take an oath to protect people that we don't even know.
Right.
And ultimately, I say, you know, by becoming a police officer, we wrote a blank check to the citizens of, in my case, New Mexico, which included an amount up into my life again. And you and I both know there's people out there that won't even give up their life for their own family, you know, much less someone they don't even know. So are there bad apples out there? Absolutely. You know, and no one hates a bad cop more than a good cop. I can tell you that. So, you know, but it's just one of those things that I think we need to realize that police officers are human and they're going to make mistakes, and giving them the support that they need to protect us is very important.
Awesome. Yeah. I want to just say to those of you watching today, pray for Rudy. Pray for the law enforcement. I mean, we pray for our military, but pray for the law enforcement. Pray for first responders. They need that undergirding of prayer. And if you need prayer today, give us a call. The number's right there on the bottom of the screen. We've got wonderful prayer partners that love to pray, and they will pray the Word of God over you. We'll be right back with Rudy in just a moment. Well, Rudy, now you are now retired law enforcement, and but when you were in law enforcement, you were mentioning that you were managing like the canine unit.
Yes, I was very, very fortunate to be involved with the canine unit when almost 17 years of my 20 years with the state police. And to this day, I still use that experience and train police dogs for police agencies. And it's very enjoyable. Yeah.
Yeah, and but now you also rescue?
Yeah, I rescued dogs that from law enforcement agencies that maybe have become too aggressive for whatever reason. I rehabilitate those dogs and do behavioral modification. And in many cases, I'm very successful in being able to place those dogs with police departments that may not necessarily have the funds to purchase a dog, because they're very expensive. You know, $15,000 to $20,000 for a police dog, and all I ask from the agencies is just to make sure that they have the funds to maintain the dog through vet bills, food, and those types of things. Yes.
Yeah, because I mean they're literally like people to you.
Oh yes, you know their unconditional love is amazing. It's been a while, but I was a keynote speaker for the United States Border Patrol and for their graduating class of their canine handlers, and I noticed there were all men that had police dogs, and they all had girlfriends or wives, and I told them, I said, you significant others, I want you to know that you now have a police dog in your significant other's life that is going to out love, unconditional love. And they said, no, no way. And they're joking, we're laughing. And I said, okay, all you handlers, I want you to do me a favor. After this graduation is done and you've settled down with your dog, I want you to do me a favor. Take your girlfriend, your wife, go to the mall with your dog, lock them both in the car for 2 hours, and when you come back, you tell me who's happy to see you. And everyone started laughing, and it was just to send home the point that a police dog is their unconditional love, though. They don't, and not just dogs in general. And we see that with our homeless folks who have animals. And at least for my sake, I see a lot of those homeless folks will forgo a meal so their dog will have a meal. And those dogs, they don't see rich, poor. They're just there to love you. And that's the same thing with police dogs. You know, I had, I think, a total of 5 working dogs over my 18 years with the state police. And losing a partner, I never lost a partner in the line of duty, but, I often adopted the dog afterwards. And when their time came, it's always difficult, extremely difficult to know that they moved on.
Yeah, yeah. So, what breeds do the law enforcement use primarily?
Primarily, law enforcement use German Shepherds, Belgian Malinois, Dutch Shepherds, and they mainly use police dogs that are bred in Europe or overseas. And here's why. As you may know, the breeding standard in the United States is AKC. It's how the dog looks, right? And well, in law enforcement, we don't care how the dog looks. We want to make sure the dog's going to be able to perform, be a working dog. Well, in Europe, those dogs get papered or certified based on a series of tests that they have to perform, and they're all working tests: smelling, biting, tracking, you name it, right? And so the genetics are extremely good coming out of Europe. So for the most part, we do get some dogs here locally that will pass a test. I remember early on with the state police, I think it was 1998 or so, we didn't have much of a budget for police dogs. So I would spend literally hours bouncing a tennis ball at the animal shelters to see if a dog would want to at least play, right? Because police dogs, or all dogs, have the ability to have 18 different drives and 7 different character traits. So when it comes to, say, detection work, we're looking for hunt drive, the ability to hunt for prey, prey drive, the ability to bite, let's say, the rabbit and shake it and kill it, air scent, and you'll see dogs that put their nose up in the air and they're sniffing for prey. That's a very vital drive. And then retrieve, the ability to get the prey and then bring it back to the pack. So those are critical drives that we look for in order for them to be police dogs. And then if they want to do apprehension, then we look in for like a fight drive, the ability to like, I guess the best way to put it is, if you bite a rabbit, the dog bites a rabbit and the rabbit decides to fight back, then the drive switches from prey drive to fight drive. Like, hey, I'm in a fight now because the rabbit decided to fight back, right? And I use that analogy just to try to set that home. But yeah, so most dogs are German Shepherds, Belgian Malinois, and we use a lot of Labrador Retrievers too. They're really good sniffers and smelling, and those typically come from the United States. In 1996, I was helped the Washington State Police start their canine program with a group of other individuals, and it was remotely. But what we were doing was, they didn't have much money, but they did their dogs with pit bulls. And they couldn't call them pit bulls because they were all rescues. And then at that time, the name pit bull, aggressive. So they called them bull terriers. But they had, I don't know, probably over 30, 40 pit bull or terriers, bull terriers, that would search their ferry system out there in the state of Washington for explosives. And those dogs are so athletic that they did that. And the ones that passed the test, they really worked really well.
That's great.
Yeah. But if there's so many dogs these days that if they have the drives, we'll take them. Even if they're a mixed breed.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, excuse me, you really gained a great love for the animals through your career, and now carrying it on with what you're doing now. And I just think it's great. I'm a dog lover, so it's like, and I know many of you out there are too. But what would you say to encourage people as we come to the end of our interview here today, to keep their faith in the Lord?
I can only speak for myself and what I struggle, like I mentioned before. My faith every day is I struggle with it. And it's that believing in God that He will give us the strength to persevere. And it's hard, I've gotten to a point in my faith in God, and is that I can only control what I can control. And I can have one choice. I can either choose to be happy about it or choose to be sad about it. And I'll just leave it with this, is that my whole career, and I struggle a lot with my career, I would be out there and I would treat people that I didn't even know with dignity and respect. I never disrespected anyone. And yet I'd come home from work and my wife would be there to greet me. And she would say something that would just set me off. And the one that's been there for me my entire adult life, I would vent on her for whatever I saw that day. And that was a big struggle for me. And, I remember when I finally realized it, like, you're going home and you're being a jerk, to the woman that's there for you no matter what. And so I remember just coming home and, in those challenging times and praying to the Lord, like, relax, give me the strength to be a little bit better today than I am.
Well, the Lord gave her to you because He knew she would understand.
Yes, and she's awesome. She's heaven sent.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for coming and sharing your story with us. And I want to encourage you here in our audience again to pray for Rudy, pray for our law enforcement, for our first responders. And especially now, they need that prayer covering. And if you haven't said yes to the greatest gift of all, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Messiah, please today, will you just say, come, Father, Yeshua, come into my heart and into my life and sit upon the throne of my heart. Change me and show me your ways. And he will do that. We love you and we want to bless you today. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you. May he lift up his countenance upon you and give you his everlasting peace. Shalom, shalom.
Thank you for joining us today on God Answers Prayer. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on our program, please contact us by visiting kchftv.org and click on Share Your Testimony. Our prayer partners are here to pray for your needs. Call us today at 505-345-4165. We appreciate your prayers and support. Join us again next time for more inspiring stories and testimonies. Remember, God is always listening, and he answers our prayers in his perfect timing.